and I'm going faster than the speed of sound on this mission, and I'm in a $50 million machine. And I remember thinking to myself, how did I, a 24-year-old, 25-year-old kid, find myself in this position? I was messing up math tests a couple of years ago.
You're listening to the 7 Echo Podcast, brought to you by 7 Eagle Group, the place where we highlight inspiring and interesting United States military veterans who have found a successful civilian career after trading in their uniforms.
Hey everyone, I am so fired up for our next guest. You won't find a more accomplished and inspiring guy out there who has achieved so much, has overcome such insurmountable hurdles, and now has dedicated his life to helping others find their inner greatness. After graduating from the Air Force Academy, Joel Thor Neeb went on to become an F-15 fighter pilot, fly over 2,500 missions, served as the tactical leader of 300 of the most senior combat pilots in the Air Force, and was named the top instructor pilot at flight training headquarters. He's a stage 4 cancer survivor who was given a 15% chance to live 10 years ago. Since his bout with cancer, he's become an extreme athlete, competing on 2 seasons of American Ninja Warrior. He finished an Ironman triathlon, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, started a community outreach program for at-risk youth, and is now CEO of Afterburner. It's a business training and consulting company that he runs with a team of former fighter pilots, Navy SEALs, and Rangers, helping clients like Google, Denver Broncos, P&G, and FedEx. Check out his inspiring book. It's called The Survivor's Obligation on Amazon, and his company is afterburner.com, and you can find them all on all the social media outlets. So Joel, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share your story with us. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jordy. Really excited to chat with you today.
That's awesome. So did you always know that you wanted to, fly fighter pilots? Did you want to serve in the Air Force when you were growing up?
No, I didn't. It's almost a little embarrassing because when I got to the Air Force Academy, I was surrounded by people who'd been dreaming of flying fighter planes their entire lives. And of course, I watched Top Gun and I loved the movie and it certainly seemed exciting. And I knew that this path was going to open that door as an option and a possibility for me. But it wasn't as if that had been my lifelong dream. Getting to that point. And honestly, I didn't really have a clear lifelong dream or a path. That's why the military was so beneficial for me. It provided structure at a time when I probably needed it the most.
Yeah, that's great. Looking back, what do you cherish the most about your time in the Air Force? And, how did that shape you into the person that you are today?
What was most transformational for me in my time in the Air Force was really when I left the academy and I joined the flying squadrons, and I had this revelation that I'd been transformed in a way that I could never have pulled off by myself. I really was surprised. I mean, there comes a point in every fighter pilot's career, or any pilot's career, even as you're going through this training, where you look back and you say to yourself, how did I get here? I distinctly remember getting ready to taxi out and go take off with 4 close friends, and we're going to fly a few feet away from each other. And I'm going to do this by myself on this day. And I'm going faster than the speed of sound on this mission. And I'm in a $50 million machine. And I remember thinking to myself, how did I, a 24-year-old, 25-year-old kid, find myself in this position? I was messing up math tests a couple of years ago, and now I'm, in charge of this $50 million machine. And what you realize is that what the military is so good at is that it wraps structure around a really compelling destination. In other words, whether you're striving to be an Army Ranger, a Navy SEAL, a fighter pilot, all of these elite military teams, they make the goal so aspirational, so exciting, so enticing that you're willing to put up with, just massive amounts of pain and suffering and training and transformation to get there. But they do it in such a way that the progress always pushes you very quickly towards that destination. So it's a combination of both what we call inspired alignment to a compelling destination and really strong disciplined execution to get
Yeah,
there.
yeah. What advice would you share with civilian business owners about why they should, consider adding a talented military veteran to their team, and why it's not just a patriotic act, but it's a really smart business move too for them?
Right. So military team members, you're going to notice right off the bat when you bring them on board that they're going to have a sense of urgency and a bias towards action that's going to be greater than their civilian counterparts. So now today I work at Afterburner, which is a consulting firm that helps to translate what made us successful on the battlefield for my team members who fought in battle to now the boardroom and apply some of those concepts and principles. And so I've seen very clearly what corporate America does well, where we can help out, and I feel like uniquely, since I perched both of those worlds, the military and the corporate world, we can see where the value propositions lie. So if I were running a civilian corporation and I was considering a military person, given the knowledge I have, I would know that if I bring on that military person, they're going to look to create process where there is none. They're going to look to create structure. Very often, civilian corporations just don't invest a lot in the structure and the process, and they get by without it. But it's not scalable, and it certainly doesn't take you to the next level that you'd like to take the organization. And then they also have a bias towards action. We have a problem of analysis paralysis in corporations,
Right.
where we just like to admire the problem and have meeting after meeting about it and just talk about it. You end up on one side of the spectrum. You just keep doing that, where you're just admiring the problem and stuck, or you're just moving so fast and you're saying, forget it, we're not even going to plan, because every time we plan, it just leads us nowhere. And so you're shooting from the hip. And we very rarely see a structured, aligned approach that these companies take. And it still allows them to be successful, but there's an opportunity cost. There's not quite as much success as they could have had they built some structure around it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you got that life-changing news that you had cancer, how in the world did you find the strength and to persevere, not give up, just keep going at it? How did you get through that time?
That was a real gut punch for me, because I was at the top of my game. I was 10 years into flying. I was finally comfortable with, the process of flying, and I felt like I was in a place where starting to get to mastery, right? Because up until that point, the little secret for fighter pilots is that there's a little tinge of fear, when we first start, and gosh, am I going to remember everything that I got to do? And there's just so many challenging complexities to it that you feel like you're always a little bit behind. I was finally to that place where I felt like I was ahead of the jet for the most part. So it was a great place to be. And I was auditioning to be an Air Force Thunderbird, and to go join the demonstration team like the Blue Angels. And then out of nowhere, I find out that I've got cancer, not just cancer, but stage 4 cancer. And it's, going to be debilitating and a long journey to recover from this, if I even can recover. 15% chance of survival in this case. And so, it was the last thing I expected to hear. And to be honest with you, there's nothing that really could prepare me. People always say, well, it's good that you're a fighter pilot. Maybe you're able to draw some strength from that. And I didn't really feel that necessarily. I felt there wasn't a point where I was saying, well, this is made easier because I've flown upside down. It just, there's not much that can prepare you for it, I'd say.
Oh man, it's so impressive that you got through that, and now you're doing such incredible work. And I love the advice that you do give to your fellow veterans, especially men and women transitioning out. I believe you call it the 3 Gs: the grow, give, and be grateful. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about each of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I looked back at my life on what was conceivably my deathbed at that time, because they told me to expect to live 18 months, I was taking stock of, what I was happy about. What are those memories that I was going to cherish in my last days? What are my regrets? And, just probably what everybody would do in that circumstance is just kind of say, what's my legacy? What's my story? And how do I feel about that? And it was interesting as I look back at the happiest moments of my life, and I had to put some pattern or trend to it. It wasn't what I expected it to be. It's not necessarily the accolades. it definitely wasn't the accolades. It wasn't the times that I thought it would be, that I really fought for, like throwing my hat in the air at the Air Force Academy, or, getting the wings pinned on my chest for finishing flight school, and the things that I'd really been going for. It wasn't the finish lines in life. It wasn't the trophies. It wasn't the accolades. It was really the journey that I valued the most. And as I look back at my life, it came down to three principles. Anytime that I was getting outside of my comfort zone, a little counterintuitive, because every time that I got outside my comfort zone and I experienced growth, I didn't enjoy it necessarily at the time. In the moment, I hated it sometimes. But those are some of my favorite memories, because that's where the growth came from. That's where the clarity came from. And, beyond that, I experienced life in a different way. So growth was the number one thing that was important to me. Number two were those times where I would be giving back to another group. And it's cliche, but giving is the most selfish thing that you can do. And what I mean by that is when you give to somebody else, you really are giving to yourself in the process. And I know that for sure. When I was going through my cancer treatments and undergoing chemo, and my hair turned silver at 33 and it was falling out and I looked like a shell of my former self, I was doing this youth outreach program, and I was helping out these kids in San Antonio who had a horrible home life and just a lot of things stacked against them in life. And I was helping to be a positive influence in their life. And every time I would go meet with those kids, I would literally forget that I had cancer during that time frame. It was like a revelation as I was leaving again. Oh yeah, I got to deal with cancer as I'm driving away from those events. And it's because you can't help somebody else out and truly give of yourself and still feel sorry for yourself. And there's a little secret to life that I'd never seen before. And I certainly was a self-centered, self-pitying type of person before that. And so it was really helpful to see that this is almost like a secret that I'd never been exposed to, giving. And then the last one, gratitude, was just my way to see that even during cancer, I still was creating amazing memories with my family. And it's because I was deciding to. In other words, I knew that it was the end of my life. And so because of that, I wasn't going to waste it. And I wasn't going to feel sorry for myself. And once I gotten over the shock of cancer, I all of a sudden said, well, I'm going to give my kids some good memories and my wife some good memories to have of me. And so really invested in that. And what I realized was I wasn't faking it. I was genuinely happy during that time frame. It was just because I chose gratitude, and it reinforced for me that we all have that choice every day. And for a very long period of time, I didn't choose gratitude, and I chose to, resent that I didn't have the things that I wanted. And there's a great quote by Teddy Roosevelt where he says that comparison is the thief of all joy. And I think that's true. I think if we, when we're really unhappy, it's just because we're comparing ourselves against somebody else. What does somebody else get? What did we not achieve that we're mad about? And we can't focus on what we do have. So if comparison is the thief of all joy, then it stands to reason that gratitude can be the source of all joy. And so those three G's, growth, giving, and gratitude, and for me, connected by my fourth G, God, really gave me the principles that I needed to endure that time frame. And then on the other side of it, live as much of a fulfilled life as I can.
Yeah, that was great. Such great advice. Well, and I just love the fact that you don't stop. Like everything I read about, you're doing another challenge, 1 week, a different one, another. You're climbing mountains and going on American Ninja Warrior. Like what's next for you? What can we look forward to on the horizon?
So I'm trying out for American Ninja Warrior again. I'm also trying out for Titan Games. We are transitioning our company from just a consulting play into a private equity play. So we're raising $50 million to buy other corporations. Wow. We're about 2/3 of the way there on that fundraise, and doing this during a time when COVID's really attacking, the economy, and small businesses are at risk. And we're really excited about that because we're coming in and taking our consulting knowledge to help transform and save a lot of these companies along the way, companies that will have an equity stake in. So you hit the nail on the head, always thinking about the next play and the next opportunity. Yeah. And that goes back to my cancer battle too, because at that time I was kind of coasting, at 33 years old, I was in very much in my comfort zone. And I really liked being told how cool it was that I was a fighter pilot. And I really liked getting, patted on the back for that. But it was really easy for me at that point. Like I said earlier, I was ahead of the jet. I was in my comfort zone. I really wasn't growing that much anymore. And when I was told I was going to die, the biggest revelation for me was not that I was going to die in 18 months. It was really that I was going to die at all, because notionally that was just such a far off concept. And now when I started doing the math, I'd say, well, I really only do have a couple of good decades left of doing what I wanted to do. And even if I do outlive this cancer, I still am not really haven't done half of the things I wanted to do in life. And I'm just sitting back and coasting on getting a pat on the back for flying an airplane. And that was when I made the decision, even during cancer, that I would leave the military, even though it was a life I loved and I had great affinity for. It was just that I wanted to experience more. And so to your point, I am always looking for the next thing. And it's not because I'm not fulfilled in this stage. I actually love this stage. It's just that I know that the growth is what feels good. And right. and when you stay in the same place, and no matter where it is, that you don't experience that growth, and that does get old after a while.
Yeah. Well, Joel, I can't thank you enough for taking some time to chat today. I mean, this is amazing. You're an incredible guy. I'm so grateful that I have an opportunity to talk to you and share your message with the people, the veterans who we interact with. And, thank you for doing the incredible work that you do. I'm so glad that you've overcome a lot of those incredible hurdles that you had to deal with. So appreciate it again.
Thank you, Jordy. Honored to be here. And to all the veterans listening, if you are making a transition into the corporate world, I'd tell you that you have more to offer them than you can possibly realize right now. I'd also tell you that you're going to have more to learn than you can possibly realize right now, and that there's a ramp up period that if you're willing to invest and really reset yourself and start over, that you're going to see that you'll pass by your peers that have even been in the corporate world for a long period of time. But it does require you to translate your skills and translate them literally as you would a language. The military, we speak, as an analogy, we speak Portuguese. The corporate world speaks Spanish, right? And if you know anything about those languages, they actually sound really similar, but they're not. And you can't understand each other. You have to work at translating what we learned into the new language. Once you do that, you unlock massive potential for yourself, for the companies and teams that you support. And those adjacent skill sets are going to take you to the levels that you can't possibly imagine.
That's great. Well, awesome advice. And everyone, please check out Joel Neeb's social pages, check out his website, buy his book. He's got some incredible knowledge to share with all of us. Thanks again.